Welcome back to Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. This is your host, Ryan Warner. Today's guest, folks, is a damn good one. It's Richard Jensen, who's been featured on ESPN. He has an E60 documentary about him because his story is that incredible. Going from high school wrestler to 15 years of drug abuse and living that kind of lifestyle to doing some really incredible things now. And I'm just going to leave it at that because the podcast speaks for itself. So please enjoy. A few other housekeeping items. If you're listening to this on an iPhone, please leave a review or give us a rating in the iTunes store. Last but not least, for past episodes, please visit WrestlingChangeMyLife.org. And without further ado, I take you to the Pacific Northwest for this podcast with Richard Jensen. Enjoy.
Well, I was a fanatic. There's no doubt, a fanatic. My goal was to get carried out of the wrestling room because of exhaustion, and it never happened. The thing it did for me every day about 6 o'clock is that when I got out, I looked back in and there was nobody else there. Bottom line was I didn't reach my goal. So guess what happened? I went back in the room again. But I got some quality time because of just some kind of a fanatic goal.
All right, folks, we have a special guest today, my friend Richard Jensen, joining us on the podcast. How are you, man?
I'm awesome. Thanks, Ryan Warner. We've finally connected. Wow,
Yes,
appreciate what you're doing, and it's really nice to connect with you.
No, I know we've had this one in the works for, I think I first contacted you back in the fall, man. So I know you're a road warrior, so excited to get into your story today. So
Absolutely.
what we'll do is, man, I just, maybe a lot of people who in the Midwest maybe don't know your name, maybe some do, man. Just tell us your story because it's one of the most incredible things I've ever heard, man. So take us away, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it. I've been traveling for 10 years, speaking and competing, and so there's a lot of people across the country do know the name, do know a little bit about me, but maybe haven't heard my story in person in an auditorium. But I went on the road about 10 years ago because I realized the value in what I learned, through my life story. Back in high school, I wrestled in high school. It was the key heartbeat and the key element that kept me on track, and it kept me focused, and it helped get me through high school. Wrestling was like medicine for me. When I found wrestling, and you got to realize I wasn't a big top of the podium guy through high school. I was about a 500 wrestler. But man, did I love that sport. I loved the competition. I loved the hard work, and it just helped me to have a sense of purpose. It gave me something that was mine, something I enjoyed. And I got through high school and graduated, and where it really begins is that young adulthood, after graduation and trying to find myself and figure out, navigate where I'm going and what I'm doing. That's when things got really, really challenging for me. And, these kids today and then, we have a lot of stuff pulling at us, pulling us in different directions. And it's so easy to lose our focus. And, right after high school, I went off fishing in Alaska. The carrot was out in front of me. Big money and the babes, and I chased after that carrot. And this was back in about 1990, and there was good money, hard work up in Alaska. But I went up there with the idea to make a bunch of money, come back after the summer, and then go to college and be a student athlete. That was my goal. That was my vision, was to go to college, get an education, and wrestle for a college. And that's all I ever wanted to do. And I went off fishing in Alaska for the summer, and life has a funny way of throwing a curveball sometimes. I got back after 2.5 months of fishing up in Petersburg, Alaska, and got sucked into the fisherman's lifestyle. And a young kid with, very impressionable, insecure, and really didn't have much money growing up, and all of a sudden handed $35,000 for a couple months of work, and I had no concept of how to manage it. And when I started drinking during that summer and using some drugs, my whole world changed. You know, it changed the course of my life, all from a few bad decisions. And next thing you know, I'm on a 2-decade drug addiction. And, you know, it's hard to stop that train when you get rolling in the wrong direction, a little too far off track. And I got back from that summer, and college got just a little bit foggy. You know, and next thing you know, I missed college that fall, and got on another fishing boat, and that went on for a few years, and it didn't take long before my life was spinning out of control. You know, I couldn't stop, and went from lots of alcohol to methamphetamine and other drugs, and pretty soon that train was running so hard forward that I couldn't pull on the brakes, and I lost 20 years of my life fighting drug addiction, and in and out of jail and prison and homeless. I spent 7 years of my life locked up in jail and prison, and away from my family, you know, the people that I love, the people I care about, my kids. You know, drugs played such an important part in my life, man. It was everything else kind of took a back seat. And, you know, 20 years, you don't get none of that time back. And, you know, I made some really bad choices, and I got to live with a lot of the choices that I made. And I carried a lot of guilt and shame, when I finally came to, you know, 2003, I spent the whole year of 2000 in prison. I got out for 2 months. Then I spent the whole year of 2003 in prison.
And what were you going back for? Like what like obviously drug abuse brings on like theft, things like that. But what kept sending you back?
Obviously, drug charges and fighting and assault charges, and you know, I had to supply that habit, you know, and so unfortunately I got involved in manufacturing drugs, and so getting those attempt to manufacturers and driving without a license, you know, and just you know, charge after charge, and probation violation. It just never ends, you know. Once they got their thumb on you and you're not making the right choices, you might as well get ready to go back in that revolving door until you decide to get straight, you know. And you know, it was a tough lifestyle. I don't, you know, at the end of the day, bottom line is 2003, October 10th is I was sitting in a homeless shelter, 34 years old, with the clothes on my back, laying on a gym floor. And, you know, that's where life had taken me. And I was at my very bottom. I was at the end. And, you know, I made a decision that I was done. I'm done. I need to get clean. I need to get sober. I need to figure out how to make a lifestyle of it, because what I'm doing isn't working, and I'm not going to be here very long, you know. I'd seen guys dying. I'd seen guys going to prison for life. I'd seen guys in their 50s and still fighting addiction and living in that lifestyle, and criminality and convict belief system and addiction. And it just didn't look good, you know? You know, I write in my book about the 5 things that came into place at the right time. And it's basically the formula that got me to a point where I wanted to move forward and find a better life, you know. And, you know, it's like hitting your bottom, they call it, you know. Well, my bottom was sitting at my bottom was, my daughter, his mom, bringing my daughter to see me for the first time. I hadn't seen her in a couple of years, and all of a sudden she's at my back door. And, you know, I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. I I don't let them in the house, you know, because I'm embarrassed. And so, but I spend the day with them, and it was just a big eye opener. You know, I hadn't seen my daughter in a while, and then I got a letter from a sister that I'd never met in my whole entire life about that same time, and you know, I woke up, you know, a month later at the Oregon State Penitentiary. This is maximum state prison where all the killers are, you know, and there I am.
And this is after you saw your daughter?
This is right after I saw my daughter. So these things kind of happened all within a few months at the end, you know, and they were very powerful, moving things that happened, you know.
Right.
And because I couldn't stop thinking about, you know, my daughter and how much I wanted to be in her life, but there was that wall, you know. I was a wreck, you know. And I had an older daughter. I had you know, my kids' pictures on the dashboard of my car, you know, and I'm out just doing horrible stuff. And but then I ended up at the Oregon State Penitentiary, maximum state prison. You know, I graduated basically. Now I'm going to maximum security prison, which is where I'm going to go from then on, and I'm going to do more and more time. And my mom passed away while I was there, and I never got to be there during that time, and because of the choices I made, I was locked up. And Mom, you know, she was always the heartbeat of the family, you know. But you know, during that last year of time I was locked up, I got out and I checked into a shelter when I got out, and you know, from there forward, I decided that I was going to do whatever it took to stay clean, and I was just going to fight one day at a time to make good choices and not get drunk and not get loaded. And that was October 10th, 2003 is when I got sober. And, you know, I haven't had a drink since, and I haven't done any drugs since, thank God. But, you know, I got into treatment. I got into a mentoring program. I got sober. I was able to stay sober for a while. You know, I had like a year, you know, while I was in prison, and then I stayed sober and got into a program and stayed sober for about another year, and I was feeling good. Things were going well, you know, and I decided that, you know, I needed to get an education, and I've wanted to wrestle my whole entire life. I've thought about wrestling, you know, and I didn't know if it was even a possibility after having such a long sabbatical and with the lifestyle I lived. I had no idea if it was even possible, but, you know, in the back of my mind, I knew that if I could be part of a wrestling team again, I didn't have to ever win a match, Ryan. If I could be part of a wrestling team and restructure my life around the sport of wrestling and be that athlete that I always wanted to be, then it would bring value to my life and my life would get better. I knew that. And all I needed was a place to call home and get back in the wrestling room. I just knew that it was going to be a safe place. And I went and got back into college. I went to a community college for a year to get my get up to college level classes. You know, it took me about a year to get up to college entry level. And then once I got there, I went over to visit Clackamas Community College, and they got a wrestling team. And they also have a great automotive program. So it was the best of both worlds for me, because those are the two things I dreamed about my whole entire life. Those were the visions I had for my life when I was in high school, was to be in an automotive program and be a student athlete, you know. But here I was, 37 years old now, you know. And
now, before we turn to this chat, because this is an exciting part. Now, before we turn to this part of the story, I want to go back to a few things that I think would be particularly relevant for the listeners. So the first is, before you hit that low point, man, like, and a lot of people don't realize this until they're there, how slippery of a slope is it to go from having some drinks to drinking every night to next thing you know, you look around, you're in a world filled with drugs, and you're hanging out with people who you wouldn't imagine hanging out with in a million years. And this is now your normal friends, and you're staying up all night. I mean, how slippery of a slope is it for people who are maybe, kind of on that edge?
It's actually one step away. I mean, you got to understand, I came from a good, loving family, good family values. My parents didn't drink, they didn't do drugs.
Wow.
And so, so I wasn't bound for that lifestyle. Some kids are kind of stuck in generations of bad choices, generations of addiction, generations of alcohol. Well, I didn't really have that. Okay. So for a kid like me to fall a prey to that easy, that can happen to anybody, right? Anybody. And, the thing we don't understand, a lot of times kids don't understand is when they go out drinking and they go out, they think they're just having a drink and partying a little bit or having a little smoke or whatever. What they're doing is they're already starting down that road. You're already kind of starting down that road, and that train is hard to stop. I had no idea that, doing drugs one night, I would end up getting addicted and it would completely destroy my life and everything around me. I mean, that wasn't the, that wasn't the goal. That wasn't the idea. I had no idea what was going to happen, and it's like a gorilla on your back, you don't know how bad it's going to get, and, that's the thing we have to understand is that's drugs' job. That's what it's there. Methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine. That's its job, is to destroy your life. That's its job, and that's what it's going to do. And sometimes sometimes it will. In fact, sometimes you'll die right away. Sometimes, I mean, the death toll is astronomical right now with the fentanyl and the heroin that's on the streets. People are dying out there.
Yeah.
And you don't. And for me, it was a 20 years of misery. And at times I wish I'd have been dead. And I was fortunate enough to live through it all. But the thing is, that's its job. It just takes everything you love away from you, and until it's got everything you own, or you're dead, or you've lost everything, it's going to keep beating on you,
And you've hurt your family and friends. And yeah, I mean, it's, the crazy, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, my dad always said this, and it's so true, but, you could be one of those people where you could have a drink, maybe you try a drug or two, and you can go on to your life, or you're one of those people where you have a drink and it changes the rest of your life. Stephen King wrote about this in his book. It's called On Writing, but his first drink was like a high school trip his senior year. 10 years later, he's doing cocaine every day. He can't stop. And like, some people, you don't know what kind of person you are until it happens. And all of a sudden, if you are one of those people who has that personality, literally one drink or one drug or whatever can change the rest of your life, always for the worse. It's crazy to me how you don't know who you are until you try that,
And you don't know. It's not like you're just rolling the dice. Boom. Is it,
right.
Rolling dice. Some people can have a drink. Some people can have wine on Friday night. I personally have found that when I have wine on Friday night, if I ever had a wine on Friday night, they don't make a glass big enough for me, So the thing is, I don't know how to stop. And so I guess at the end of the day, there's people like that out there. I'm not today, I'm not afraid of alcohol. The first few years, I was scared to death to even be around anybody that had a drink, but today I'm not scared of it. It's not going to jump on me,
right.
But and it's a lifestyle now. The other thing is people that have issues with drug addiction and alcoholism. The thing is, what I've found is a lot of them stay clean for a month or 2 or 6 months or a year even, and the thing is, I literally was still confused and not sure who I was and trying to figure out things for a couple of years, Ryan. I mean, you don't know who you are for a long time. And until you stay off the sauce long enough, until you can really start reaping the real rewards of it, it takes time. It takes a while. I got 15 years, 17 years of destruction behind me, A couple of days sober is you know, I've got some work to do, you know. So
Totally.
The other thing, I was patient with the process.
Keep interrupting you.
No, I mean, we all want instant gratification. What do you mean? I've been clean for 30 days. How come I haven't got my license back, my house, my car? I mean, come on, you know. You got to have patience. You got to believe in the process, and you got to hang on long enough, and to where you really can start reaping some real rewards. It takes a while, but when it starts coming, it floods. It starts coming, you know. And that's something I found a few, you know, obviously I haven't, you know, it's been a lifestyle for a lot of years, but the first 2 to 3 years was a grind, Ryan. Like I literally wanted to drink, wanted to do drugs. You know, I thought about it every day. I mean, but I just didn't do it, you know.
And that's the part I want to talk about before we get to the second part of this story, because there's, you know, a couple of chapters. It's before, it's during, and then, you know, this interim period I'm fascinated with, where, you know, it's the 2 to 3 years you talk about where you are sober, but you haven't gone back to college yet, and you haven't got back involved with wrestling yet. So, you know, during that 2 to 3 year period, I'm guessing it's a lonely time because, you know, who you used to be is no longer that person. And, you know, you feel different being sober, and, you know, you're feeling sad and a lot of regret about the way you've lived your life so far. And to get rid of that pain, a lot of people go back to using. And so how did you forgive yourself for all those years and kind of put it behind you so that you could get back to living a normal life?
Well, you know, that first, I just got chills thinking about it, you know, while you were talking. I got goosebumps on my arms, you know, because for 17, 18 years, that was my identity, you know, that was who I was. You know, I was the man on the scene. I was the guy with the money. I was the guy with the drugs. I was getting loaded. I thought I was somebody, you know, very ego-driven, very selfish, very self-centered. And, you know, and I had this really long couple feet of long curly red hair that I kind of hid behind, you know, and it was, you know, that convict, that prison belief system. It was my identity, man. And when I finally got completely sober and completely clean, you know, it was a very lonely, depressing time for a while. But, you know, that, and it took me a few years before I started feeling comfortable within my own skin, you know, comfortable with who I really was and who I've always wanted to be, you know. It was tough, man, because the thing is, it's so easy to run back to do the drugs, you know. I could hide those feelings and just do some drugs, you know. This doesn't work, you know. The fear around what's ahead can really get to you, you know, because I was scared to death of what was ahead. I was so comfortable getting loaded and living in that environment for so long. The fear of what this was going to look like, you know. It took a long time before I got enough confidence to where I understood that this is actually the way I was supposed to be living all along. You know, it took me a long time. And
well, the crazy thing is that in life, when you feel that fear, that's when you're growing and learning new stuff. Like that's, but it's so counterintuitive to how you should feel. Like your gut tells you, hey, a little scary, let's back it off. Let's get back to the couch. Let's maybe not talk to that girl. Let's maybe not whatever, you know. But man, when you feel the fear, that's when you're alive in the sense that you're learning and growing, brother, you know?
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, man, because when you're uncomfortable and you got fear and you got insecurities and you fight through that and get to the other side and get out the other side of it, oh man, you have grown. You've grown internally. You've grown. You know, and the thing about what for me, it was whenever I really felt like getting loaded, I got some key things that happened, and I wrote about it in my book. I'm not going to tell you about it right now, but you'll have to read about it. But there was a few things that happened in that first 2 or 3 years, you know, where 90% of us would have went and got loaded, you know. We'd have went and drank. Yeah. We'd have submitted. We'd have folded. We'd have sold out again. And it took everything I had to not do it. But you got to understand, every time you do that and you come out the other side without submitting, it's exhilarating. You know, you feel like you got control again. You feel free. You feel like I won, addiction didn't win this time. I won, and it's inspiring, and it helped me to stay inspired by not submitting, and winning the day, basically, is what I used to call it, winning the day, and over time it just got easier. That's the thing. After a while, it just gets so much easier, and it's just like a walk in the park, when you start feeling shitty, it's like, okay, don't get loaded. That's all you got to do. Your life's going to get better. There's nothing that you go through in life. There's no struggles in my life personally that alcohol or drugs is going to make it easier to get through, or easier to handle, or easier to overcome. I mean, all it's there to do is make it a disaster and make it 10 million times worse, So,
what's your book called, Richard?
It's Be a Champion in Life, the story of Richard Jensen. It's coming out this fall. We just finished it up. We just had a read through this weekend, Ryan, and we have been, my writer, myself, and my wife have worked for 8 years on this, and it took us a long time because we wanted to get it just right, and I wanted to reach a broad audience, and I want younger kids to be able to read it, and I wanted to reach the masses, and so and it's very personal to me, and so it took a long time, and we've been editing for years, and this last weekend we actually did a final read through, and it's the first time that I've sat down and actually read cover to cover, on a read through, and it was an emotional weekend, Ryan. Like it was a hard read. It was emotional, but at the end of the day, it was powerful, man, and it's good. It's good.
I can't wait to see it, man. And when it comes out, you make sure to text me, and we'll put it up and promote it. So
absolutely,
okay,
appreciate it.
Back to the story. So now we're at like year 2 to 3 of sobriety. You go back to college to get your college level classes, and now you're ready to begin junior college, and you think, man, I've always wanted to be involved in this wrestling. So I'll turn it back over to you. Kind of take us through that. So like day one, you go to the wrestling coach and you say, hey, I'm like 34 years old. I want to wrestle. Like maybe just take us there to where you're at now.
Yeah. So I got sober in 2003, and then 2007, I had gotten a few years clean. I'd gotten a year of college down, and I went over to Clackamas Community College, and I said, hey, I went and met with the athletic director, and I talked to him about, I said, hey, what are the chances of me coming to college here, getting my automotive certificate in wrestling? And he thought I was nuts. He goes, how old are you? And I said, I'm 37 years old. He goes, well, how long has it been since you competed? I said, I don't know, 20 years. And he goes, the odds are against you. You forget how demanding it is and how much sacrifice you have to do it. And here you are at 20 years older than the kids, with a life and family. And he goes, this is really uncharted waters. He says many have tried, but they don't stay. Because it's a big eye opener on what it takes to be in a college wrestling room. And all I heard was that there was a slim chance that I could be part of the team. That's what I heard. That was all I heard. He was trying to let me down and let me out kind of easy, but when I left there, all I heard out of the whole half-hour conversation with the athletic director was, there's a slim chance you could be part of the team. And so that next fall, I registered and got into the automotive program, and I showed up at wrestling practice. And there I was, 10 years older than the coaches, 20 years older than most of the athletes, and it was, I was scared. I had a lot of fear. I was scared. I didn't know, what was ahead. But one thing I knew for sure is that wrestling was going to help my life. That I knew for sure. And, it was kind of awkward between coaches and me, and between athletes and me. Like, what's this old guy doing here, And I think at the end of the day, most of them pretty much thought I'd make it through a week or two, and then I'd be done. I'd be gone. It wouldn't last. And surprise, surprise. I made it through Ironman. It's the first 2 weeks where it's basically where they push you and it thins the herd, and 10 or 15 kids were done after 2 weeks. And I just kept showing up. It didn't take long though before I was part of the team though. About a month in, all of a sudden I was a little more gel and a little more part of the team, and it wasn't as awkward, and they learned a little more about my story and why I was there, and it just became, I just became part of the team. It was really quick and really easy, and wrestling basically, took me in with open arms after such a long absence and a lifestyle that most would turn on, I don't want no part of that. They took me in with open arms, and it was really important because I knew wrestling was going to be the linchpin to me finding success. And I knew it was much bigger than a wrestling match, and I made it through the whole season, and I lost every single match except for one. I lost
No kidding.
15, 16 matches. My comeback year, I lost every single match except one.
Were they close or no?
One match. There were a lot of close ones, but I lost them all but one. Okay, and so that's a tough comeback year. That's when you want to throw in there. You think I wanted to throw the towel in half a dozen times throughout the year. I didn't know if I could take another loss. I'm looking at myself in the mirror. What am I doing? But I knew that I was staying sober. I was getting an education. I was becoming a better person. I was getting in better shape. And it was much bigger than a win inside the circle, Ryan. It was much bigger. And so I stayed in it, man. And at the end of that first 2007 season, I could have been done, and it would have been fine. I didn't have to come back for that second year. It would have been fine. Here I am, 37. I did something that I wanted to do my whole life. I could have lived with that, but I figure all those years of trying to get back to the wrestling room, and this was my window of opportunity. I was not going to let it pass me by. So I went home. That spring, and I trained all summer. I trained for 3 months. Every morning and every night I'd go for a run and train. And I went on a special diet, and I lost 15 pounds. And by the end of the summer, I was in tip-top shape. And first day of practice in 2008, all of a sudden, I'm not the last one doing the races during Ironman. I'm the first and second and third one finishing all the races. And here I am, just a completely transformed athlete. And I'm confident. I'm feeling good. I'm in great shape. I trained hard, and I'm ready to go, And so that within a month, we had our first opening tournament. It was at the Pacific Open, and, there's all level athletes there. And first tournament of the second season there, I went and I won 4 matches, and I lost 2, and I ended up placing. Won more matches than the whole year before that one tournament. And so now my confidence is really high, and I'm feeling real good.
And you're a man possessed at this point. You got a couple things going for you. You got momentum going for you, right? All these things are going right in your life. You're driven, and you know that, man, even though you're older, which may be a disadvantage, your mentality is so strong at this point because you've already overcome probably the hardest thing anyone could do is overcome a drug addiction. So you've come out of a 17-year habit, created a new habit. Now you're freaking rolling, man. And so before we go on with the season, is this true that day one of practice, you showed up in like in year one, day one, you showed up in like flip-flops or something and you had to run with that on? Is that right?
Yeah, that was in the or it was in the articles, and I wrote about it in my book. Yeah. When I first showed up, the first day of practice, I thought we were wrestling. I had these old tattered wrestling shoes I bought at the Goodwill, and I show up in flip flops and my worn out wrestling shoes, and he goes, "Hey, we're hitting the trail. We're running for 2 weeks. You need to go home and find some running shoes, and you can come back tomorrow." And I said, "Well," I looked at the coach. I said, "Hey, listen, it took me 20 years to get here. I'm not going home." And I kicked off my flip flops and I started running around the track at bare feet.
Freaking animal.
It's great. You know, another good part of the story too is, I can only, so about a month, 2 months later, we do certifications, you know, and all wrestlers know what certifications are, where you take your weight and your body fat and figure out how much weight you can lose for the season. And so this is a month into the season, and this is a month after I ran that track, and we're all standing in line to get certified. And one of the coaches comes up to me and goes, "Hey, this certifications is just for the athletes that are going to be competing this year. This is great," because he goes, that's what certifications are for. You don't have to certify, because he figures I'm just there temporary. I'm just there to work out with the kids. I looked at the coach and I said, "Well, Coach, I think we'll leave that option open, and I'm getting certified." Yeah.
Oh,
and then here we are, you know. Yeah.
Oh my God. So
he was giving me an out. He's like,
yeah, he was.
Yeah, go ahead.
So was the athletic director.
This is one of the coaches. Yeah, go ahead. Athletic director.
But I was going to say the athletic director was trying to give you an out too, but man, you just kept going. So,
right.
So now you're like, the change in a person when they have something to work for is so exciting. And the great thing is that any person right now could change how they treat each day. And you were treating each day as an opportunity to get better and learn in that summer leading up to that season. So now you're back in the season. You're in shape. You place at a tournament. Take us there through the whole run, man. What happens then?
Yeah. So, you know, and the other thing about going into that season too is that I learned a lot more about the advantages I had over these younger athletes. You know, it took me a year to kind of figure out how my body worked and what I could do and couldn't do, you know, because there's obviously a lot of things I can't do technically than a 20-year-old at 37 years old, you know. But I had some things, like I had really strong hand grip, you know, because I'd been working on cars my whole entire life, you know. I was mentally tougher than everybody else on the planet because of all the life things that I'd went through. I knew why I was in the circle. I knew why I was there every day for practice. So there was no question. And then, you know, there I am. I win that tournament, or I do well at that tournament. I got my family's there. My grandma's there. My sister, my girlfriend at the time, who's 8 years wife now, was there for for the wins. And you know, it was just, it started the train rolling forward, you know. And now, it's much bigger than the win in the circle, but now I have my sights on a national championship. You know, it took a year to get there. Now I have my sights on some bigger wins. You know, I've pushed myself to that place, and my head's in the right place now, you know, and my life was getting better. I was staying sober. I was getting to be in tip-top athletic shape, and now I'm on a quest to become a national champion. Something I had thought about in the jail cell, something I had thought about in my addiction, like what would my life would have been like if I'd have pursued that education and been that athlete, something that haunted me for so many years. Now I'm here, and now I've got a couple of wins behind me, and now I'm on a quest to become a national champion. And so the way the second season went is I won almost all my matches. After coming off of the year where I lost all my matches but one, I ended up having a winning season. And I won something like 16, 18 matches, and I lost a handful of close matches. And they've got me at the end of that season too. They've got me seated second in the region, and top three qualify for nationals at the JCs. And there I am. I'm seated second in the region, and I'd beaten everybody in the region, and I hadn't wrestled the number one guy yet. So another thing you have to realize. So another thing that happens right then is the local newspaper did an article on my story. So they're like blown away by this 38-year-old guy who's been winning, and he's seated in regionals, and he might be going to nationals, you know. And so they did a big article on my story. And after they found out my history and where I came from, they were blown away. They did a big two-page spread, and then ESPN heard about the story. And so right before regionals, I get a phone call from ESPN, and they say, "Hey, we love your story. Can we follow you? Can we come out and video and follow you at the regional tournament? You know, we might do a piece on your story." And, you know, I mean, we don't get any airtime in wrestling hardly anyway. And then a junior college with ESPN and a bunch of local papers there for a regional tournament. I mean, it's unheard of, you know? So, but, and I didn't think anything of how my story was going to really touch the world or nothing. I'm focused on a national championship right now, you know? And yeah.
So are you starting to feel nervous or have any nerves going into this regionals? Because before this, it's kind of been like you're playing on house money, right? If you win, it's a bonus. Just living a great life is a win. But now you're seated second, man, and this is it. Yeah, because junior college is only 2 years. So are you nervous at all? Or what's your self-talk before these matches?
This is the end of the race right here. This is something I've been dreaming about my whole life. And then we got ESPN, we got the local Oregonian, we got the county. Everybody's wrapped. They're here. They're all here, you know. And then the stands are. I've got a full stand full of friends and family and high school friends, and I mean people that have been coming to the matches. It drew a crowd, you know, because it's such a unique story, unique situation, you know. It drew a lot of people to the stands for the matches and for the regional. And he hosted the regional tournament at our local at Clackamas that year too. So then you got that stacked on top of it too. It's a home regional, you know, because every 5 years it's home. Yeah. So, you know, that couldn't have been scripted more perfect, really, you know. Yeah, and my nerves are. I'm a mess. I'm a wreck, you know, because now I'm here. You know, I'm seated second. You know, it's do or die. This is it. You know, this is the end of the road for me. This is the end. You know, this is my last year. This is it. And then, you know, with all the media attention, it was crappy. But you know, I always came back to you know, we worked really hard to get here. I'm going to fight through till the end. And then that's however the cards lay out, that's as good as it gets. You know, I won't have to look back and go, well, if I'd have done this or if I'd have made the right, I've done everything right. I've made all the right choices. I've trained very hard and I've won a lot of key matches and I'm there. This is as good as it gets. So I battle through the tournament and I win 3 or 4 matches. And qualify for top 3. I won the match to qualify top 3. So I'm going to nationals, and I'm wrestling in the finals in the regionals against a North Idaho kid that won the JC national tournament the year before, 2 years before. So I definitely got the top dog in the finals, but I've won my way in. I'm guaranteed to go to Rochester, Minnesota for the nationals, and I'm set to compete in the finals that night. And I lost in the finals. I took second. I was seated second. I took second. Top 3 go. I lost in the finals. I made a crucial mistake, and he pinned me in the finals late in the first round or in the second round. But
you qualified for nationals after going 1 for 15.
Yeah. Right.
Dude,
after,
crazy. I mean, just 5 years ago, you were in the Slammer. Now you're in the national regional final. And North Idaho is a great program. They've had a lot of good guys.
Absolutely.
And then so you go to the nationals, and man, I mean, I'm just curious, like, how does it end up? I can't remember. I mean, what an experience it must have been going to the national tournament. I mean,
oh my God, I was on cloud 9, but you know, I was on cloud 9. I've already done more than I ever really expected to do. You know, I mean, like for even that. I mean, you got to realize I might have my sights on a national championship, but I've done more than I ever like. Right. You know, it's a lot, dude. You know, here I am.
Totally.
It's 2008 now. I've been sober 5 years from that homeless shelter. I've been competing with a top-notch, top national quality college team for a couple of years. I mean, my life was good, man. And now I'm going to Rochester, Minnesota. Awesome. You know, the ESPN followed me out there, and they followed me through my training camp to nationals, and they went out there also, and they did a big long interview the day before the national tournament, which really drained me because we're talking about all the old stuff and, you know, the lifestyle I live in. It really dredged up some stuff. And when we got there, that if I could change anything, that's one thing I might have changed, you know, is that interview time. I might have taken it off the plate, because the first day when we got there, I was interviewing for 5 or 6 hours, and then the tournament started the next day.
Hours?
But
5 or 6 hours?
Yeah, it was a long. They were so
back it down.
Hey, they were so enthralled with my story. They wanted to know everything, man. They literally wanted to know everything. They were just blown away, you know. And even the documentary that they did air, that they ended up, we won an Emmy for it. It was voted the most inspirational comeback story.
What's it called?
And
what's it called?
Getting Off the Mat. And you can go on YouTube and put in Richard Jensen wrestler, and it'll pop up. But they were just so enthralled by it. And then the video they made, the E60 documentary, they actually made a little bit longer one than usual. You know, they said that mine was the third longest ever, because there was so much content and so much good stuff. They just couldn't get it condensed down to whatever, 11 minutes, whatever it was supposed to be, 12 minutes. But so I'm at the national tournament. I'm nervous. I'm tired. Here's 2 years of training, man. The thing is, I'm old, dude. No matter what shape I get in, a full college season is hard. You know, it's really hard. And it was just getting hard. I'd overcome some injuries, and I kept fighting, and, you know, I was winning, but it was getting tough towards the end. It was really, really hard on me. But I stayed in it, and then we got to the national tournament. I got past the first round. I won my first round match. I tossed the guy on his back and pinned him, and then I was sitting in a good spot in the bracket. I was in a great spot. Couldn't have been a better place. Won my first match. Second match, I'm up against Martin from Spokane, Yakima Valley, and I've beaten him 4 times that year. So second round's looking real good. Well, I make a crucial mistake in that match, and I get dinged a point, and I lose in the second round to him. It was a close match all the way to the end. It was like 2-2 or something. And I'm cross facing him really hard. He's not moving. I'm getting frustrated, and I lost my head. You know, got to stay in control. You got to stay in control in the match. You know, I lost my control, and I got dinged a point. Match was over. He won the second round. And then I lost in the third round to a Iowa Central kid. And so, you know, I got in 3 rounds. I went 1-2 at the national tournament. I'm sitting in the center of the mat. I'm crying, and I'm just crying because I'm feeling so overwhelmed with emotions and feeling blessed to be right there, right here, right where I'm at, you know?
Right.
The years of dreaming about, I get choked up right now thinking about it, dude. Like, I dreamed about being at the national tour. I dreamed about that moment, you know. It didn't matter, you know, and yeah, I was chasing the national title at that time. I was chasing I'd finally got that fire to win, you know, but you know what? I never had to win a match. I never had to win a single match. Why? Because my life was going to get so much better being part of the team and training and being that athlete and being in the wrestling room and having that mentality, that wrestler's mentality again, and driven and disciplined and focused and trying to just become a better person and just live a better life, you know. Never had to win a match, you know, because I was trying to win the match of life. I was trying to win my life back, you know. Yeah, man, I think, and I'm pretty sure I don't know where you'd find the statistics. I'm probably, if not the oldest, but one of the oldest athletes that ever competed at the junior college national tournament.
Have
38,
to be, man. And
38.
I just love a comeback story like that. And I tell you, what's cool is that if you would have gone right into JCs at 19 years old, you probably wouldn't have had the success you had, even in your wrestling prime, just because you value things so much more. You value the teammates, you value the work ethic so much more. And so it's crazy to say, but you maybe were more successful at 37 than you would have been at 20. Who knows? You know?
I believe I was. It's that mindset. You know, I knew why I was there. I knew, there was so much, so much you learn in life, over 20 years. And then to step back into that wrestling room and that college, I knew exactly what I was doing. Every day I woke up, knew exactly what I was doing and why I was there, and understood the value in it. And I knew that was my window of opportunity, and I wanted to do everything I could to be the best athlete, the best student, and the best person I could during this window of opportunity. And, as a kid, you're just not sure. You just kind of take it for granted, and you're doing, you don't really, I had a little more drive going for me.
Yeah. You're kind of like in a workout, you're out, like you're just waiting for practice to get over. Like, and
right.
I love
I'm there. I'm
there for a freaking purpose,
Right. I'm there an hour early to get warmed up, get my body moving, and I'm staying an hour late, So, it's, I knew why I was there, and I knew that this moment was never going to happen again. This moment in my life was never going to happen again. I'm never going to have this chance again, and so, I did everything I could. So I knew that was as good as it could get for me. Like I did everything. That was it. That was as good as it got. And it was awesome, man. But when then I graduated from Clackamas and got my automotive certificates, got my degree, and the Clackamas the first year they have the Inspirational Award, and they the team votes on it, and they voted me unanimously for the Inspirational Award. And they changed the name of it to the Richard Jensen Inspirational Award. And I won it both years. And now they give that award to athletes every year since, that get that award. And that's pretty neat to leave a mark at the college like that, because it wasn't really, it was so much, I was there for a reason, but, and in my book, I write about what some of the athletes had said to me at the end of my career there, how important my role was and how the decisions they made were different. And the reason that they accomplished what they did is because I was a part of their team and in that room. And, that was more important, when you really get down to the heart of it, to change another person's life or to impact another person's life in a positive way. It's so much more valuable than a win in the circle, getting your hand raised, It's life-changing, and it's so much more important. So when I graduated, and then I found out about the Masters. So I find out about this league, this league of wrestlers that wrestle in national and world championships all around the country, And so you got to be 35 and older. Well, I'm 38, so I rotate. I just keep training, and I start wrestling with the Masters, and still chasing a national title. So right after graduation, I went I went and competed in Las Vegas in the freestyle and Greco-Roman tournament with the veterans, and wow, I had a blast. Coaches and athletes all around the country. Some of these guys were the best in their time, and some of them train all year to compete at these tournaments. So it's very, very competitive, It's not just a bunch of old fat married guys getting together to wrestle. These guys are serious about their business, and I found a whole new love there. What I did is I went and competed with the veterans at the freestyle and Greco tournament in Vegas every year for 8 more years.
No way.
And,
Were you training all the time too, like going back to the community college and like helping out at practice, or what?
Well, a lot of times what I'd do is I'd go to the high schools, because I know a lot of the coaches now, and I would just work with the high school kids for a few years, and then And then, and the thing is, I did that for a few years, and yeah, I wrestled a little bit up at the college, but I pretty much found my own training camp. I kind of got out on my own, and but I competed with them for 8 years, and I ended up becoming a 5-time All-American. I did win a national title finally, and I competed in Athens, Greece at the World Championships in 2015. And the experience from all that, it was life changing, Ryan. It was life changing. I mean, it was like, you think about what that. I'm in a homeless shelter 15 years ago. Okay, now I competed 2 years at the junior college and 8 years all around the country with the masters. Like I'm in heaven, dude. I'm like, you gave me a little fire. You hung that little carrot in front of me, and I knew the value that wrestling was going to bring, but I had no idea how much value it was going to bring to my life. And so I stayed in it, man. If they said there was a wrestling league, I stayed in it.
Dude, could you have ever imagined, and I want to shift to what you're doing now with the programs, but dude, could you have ever imagined in 2003 that you would be competing in Athens, Greece at the Wrestling World Championships in 15 years later? Like, you would have said you were crazy.
I couldn't even imagine getting out of town to go fishing, like, I'm stuck in a room. I'm stuck in this little box, of addiction. And there I am in Athens, Greece for 3 weeks with my wife, touring around Greece and Turkey and all these cool places. And then I'm competing with guys all around the world, the best guys that are the best all around the world. And but that's honestly, like when you're stuck in yourself and you're stuck in that spot, sometimes it's hard to see past your nose, sometimes it's hard to see past your nose, but right. Really, it's a story of perseverance and challenges, never giving up, because you can only imagine how many times I woke up and thought about giving up, Ryan. I mean, you can imagine day after day, there were times where I just wanted to quit, wanted to throw in the towel, couldn't go any further, but I stayed in it and kept fighting. And then that's like what I was saying earlier about how you don't stay long enough to reap the rewards. Over time, all of a sudden, it all made sense. It all made sense, why I needed to fight through the struggles and challenges of wrestling and staying in that wrestling room and getting to where I'm competing at all the national tournaments and over in Athens, Greece. And it all made sense finally, And if you can't see past your nose, you've got to stay in the fight until you can get where you're trying to go.
So do you remember? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So do you remember when it's like you're in your second season, you're in the zone, and there's nothing more fun than waking up every morning with a purpose. You know what your purpose is. I mean, anyone can get that, But one thing I want to focus on is, like, what was your self-talk when you were just ready to quit? Like, did you have something you said to yourself?
Well, I would just remind myself of that homeless shelter, remind myself of prison, remind myself locked in that back bedroom using drugs and dope, waking up sick. I remind myself that, hey, I can't sell out again. If I sell out now, what does that really look like? I want to stay in this fight until the end. I want to see this thing through. I want to play this thing out, and I would remind myself of how my life was getting better, how even though this is hard, it's nothing like what it was like 5 years earlier. Nothing. That's not hard. This isn't hard,
Right.
And, yourself, the thing is, when you're taking losses, here's the thing, when you're taking losses, your self-esteem gets a little shot. Everybody can win and walk on cloud 9 and be cool and walk with their chest out and take big steps, but when you're losing, that's when it's real test. That's when your character is really tested, is when you're taking losses, when you're challenged, when you've got to pick yourself up off the ground, because real character is defined by how you get up after loss, how you get up and get back in it and stay in the fight. If I start throwing in the towel because I'm getting knocked down again, what is that going to look like down the road? And I wanted a different life so bad that you couldn't put me through the ringer hard enough to make me quit. You couldn't do it. Even though I thought about it, you couldn't make me actually quit.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You're
yeah, it was fun. Hey,
God,
go ahead.
dude, you're such an inspiration, man. So I want to wrap this up with, now you're doing the most important work of your life, and you're going around to schools and high schools telling your story. And, maybe spend, a few minutes on that. And ultimately, we want to understand it. If there's a high school wrestling coach listening, how can they get in contact with you? But maybe just talk about what you've learned. Like what are the challenges of these young kids now? Because they still have a lot of challenges, right? They're disenchanted. There's the problem of vaping, which you've mentioned to me, which who would have ever thought that? I mean, like, what are you seeing now with the kids you're talking with? Like, what are their challenges and how are you helping them?
Well, so now I retired from competition in 2016. That's the year I won the national championship, and I went ahead and stepped down. But 10 years ago, when the ESPN documentary came out, that's when I started speaking. It was, and I was still competing and training and traveling around and speaking a little bit. And it took about 5 or 6 years to really get some traction, but I understand. I didn't want to sit home on my hands when I knew the value in the things that I'd been through over 20 years of making bad choices and the places I went. Now here we are, 15 years of making good, positive choices and finding a huge level of success in every area of my life. There's a lot of value in that too. And these kids today are dealing with so much pressure, so many things pulling at them. Vaping is unbelievably, it's off the Richter scale, and it's middle school all the way up, heroin, fentanyl, heroin, we're losing people, they're dying. There's people dying. And so I just figured I'd go on the road and hopefully change a few lives by sharing my experience, my story. And, I didn't know exactly where that was going to go over time. I just knew I wanted to go out and talk to some kids. And, come to find out, I'm reaching kids at such a high level. They are yearning to hear a real life, true story of struggle, but also success. They want to hear these kind of stories, and because they see struggle in their lives, they see their family members destroying their lives. They see addiction. They see family and friends in jail. They see the vaping taking over. They have insecurities and anxiety and depression. So they're looking for somebody to connect with them, and that's what I do. Through my story, I just get very honest, intimate, and vulnerable. And I play the ESPN documentary in my presentations. I talk about some of the depths I went, but also I start talking about what it's like making the right choices and how we all have the ability to find massive levels of success. If a guy like me can come from where I came from and get where I'm at, I mean, that basically opens up a freeway that says anybody can go out and accomplish great things, if they really want to get after it. But these kids are, it's unbelievable. These kids are quiet. They're looking at me like you're saying exactly what I needed to hear today, and when we start getting a few tears in the audience, then I know I've connected. Then I know that kid has some struggles in their life, or they've seen it, or, and then I know I've connected. And, I went for 5 or 6 years really trying to get traction with speaking. And, last year I spoke to over 50,000 kids nationwide, middle school through college.
Oh my God.
And I mean, we are making a big difference out there in the world. And now my goals have shifted and they've changed. And I do a lot of stuff to really try to reach these kids. And my goal is to talk to every kid in the country now, So we
you have a new mission in life, a new purpose.
Right. Then, yep, that's it. Now I got something else to drive for. And, the thing is, a lot of these speakers spend 40 minutes speaking to these kids on stage, and then they're gone. And so what I decided to do is, if you're going to fly me across the country and get me into your school, I'm going to do everything I can to reach these kids from different angles. So I actually come in for the full day. I do an assembly in the morning, a big question and answer, every kid in the assembly gets a rubber wristband and it says, "Be a champion in life, inspire others." I pass out 40 to 50,000 of those every year to the kids. And then I go to we have a few breakout groups, maybe in the library, or I go to a few classrooms and talk about the presentation, field questions, and just talk about stuff, you know. And then during wrestling season, I go to wrestling practice after school, and then we have a private session with the wrestling team. So it's a full day event, man. And I'm telling you, by the end of the day, we've reached these kids. It's tangible, it's touchable, it's real, and we're able to connect with them from different angles. And then also the kids can follow us on Instagram, and that keeps them engaged with me throughout, you know, afterwards. You know, they can actually engage with us on Instagram and follow our inspirational tours and our motivational stuff. And a lot of times, you know, you get a few handfuls of kids that are reaching for more. You know, they go to Instagram and find us. And so it's really engaging, you know, and I had no idea that was the lane I was going to be in. But,
wow.
But
unbelievable.
You know,
it really is unbelievable. And what's crazy about it is that we just don't know how much we're capable of, which is just it's exciting. It's also a little fearful, because every day you're like, man, am I leaving stuff on the table? Because, man, if at 36, 37, you can qualify for the nationals, man, what is everyone else capable of? What are you? I mean, you're talking to 50,000 kids a year, and 10 years from now, I'm going to talk to you, and you're going to be talking to 1 million, and you're going to be doing it in all countries. And so, like, it's
absolutely. That's
like,
the goal.
How freaking much are we capable of, you know, Richard?
Well, you know, it's so easy to get comfortable and stay safe, you know, and stay within our comfort zone and not stretch the boundaries a little bit. And you know, but the way I look at it is, you know, I've been raising the bar ever since I got clean, you know, and I'm willing to do that. I have no fear, and I'm not concerned about failure. I have no fear around not making it or not accomplishing it or not doing it. What I don't want to do is look back on my life and go, I should have, or I could have, or why didn't I, you know? And so I've been trying to really fulfill a lot of things, personal things for me. And, you know, I'm also making up for some lost time too. You know, I got 20 years I lost, you know, and I see what I'm doing is making a difference in people's lives, and I'm motivated and passionate about it. And so I couldn't be more in love with my work, you know? So, that's what I do. You know, I travel around. That's a lot of people always ask me. So, you know, a lot of think, oh, I speak to a few schools. Well, you know, do you understand how many 50,000 kids is? You know, or they go, oh, you talking to wrestlers? You know, and I'm like, 50,000 kids. You know, like that's a lot of wrestling teams.
How many days a year is that you're on the road?
You know, it's sporadic throughout the year. Fall is a very busy time for me, you know, and then wrestling season is very busy. And then I have an inspirational Be a Champion in Life tour bus also. And, you know, I've been doing some team travel. I actually take the Oregon Elite team to Fargo during the summer. I take a team to Idaho. I'm taking a couple teams down to Reno for a camp. I also have a Be a Champion in Life wrestling camp. I only take 25 kids and 3 coaches, because that's all the seats I have in my bus is 28. And we go down to the Oregon coast, and we have a small personal camp. We camp out and have campfire discussions. I'm right on the beach, and we go wrestle in a wrestling room all day and go play at the beach in the afternoon and talk about life in the evening over a campfire. It's actually a very unique, pretty awesome experience for the kids, and it's very inexpensive for a week camp. I get a little sponsorship, and obviously I own the bus, I own the beach property, and I work a deal with the facility, and so we're able to keep the cost down. In fact, we have Mark Hall coming from Penn State this year. He's coming into town for our camp. Yeah, so we're going to have a clinic with him.
Is he going to stay out there on the beach with you guys?
You know, he's not coming down for the whole week, because it's, you know, it's fall. It's a tough time to peel him away from Pennsylvania for a whole week to 8-9 days, you know. But we did get him for a couple of days, and I'm pretty pumped about that.
Dude, how gorgeous is that land out there? Like Oregon on the beach and all the trees in the hills. I mean, it must be amazing scenery out there.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's one of the nicest parts of the country. It's the best part of Oregon, you know. And last year the kids got to see whales, you know, out there because they were right in the shore last year. And it's just a neat experience. You know, it's a beautiful part of the country. You're on the beach. It's green. It's the Northwest. You're camping. I mean, you can't. And we even went fishing last year for a day. You know, we have a day that we take a break from wrestling, and we have 5 4-hour clinics throughout the week, and then the rest of the week we play at the beach. And we toured the fire station last year, and I took them fishing for an afternoon, and they caught 8 or 10 fish. You know, so it's just neat about life lessons and team building and team bonding. And you know, I bring in a 2-time world champion. I'm bringing in Mark Hall this year, and then myself, you know, and those guys bring value when it comes to coaching and technique and that kind of success. Well, I bring value when it comes to, you know, team building and talking around the campfire and life lessons. And so the combination is just a pretty awesome thing for these young athletes.
Wow. So this is amazing. We've gone way over time, and I appreciate you doing that. So I just want to kind of recap. So I know you don't want to sell too hard, but I'm going to sell for you here. That's what I do. So you got
Thank you.
So you got the school assemblies, I guess you call it, where a school books you for a day. You have your book coming out. You have the wrestling camp. Am I missing anything else? Are those three the drivers?
Those are our key elements right there that we're driving forward with. Yeah. And the camp's in August. It's August 10th. Our camp is August 4th through the 10th. We only take 25 athletes, and I think we have 16 spots available right now. We just started putting it out there.
Where would they Google to find that?
You know, they're going to have to find me on social media right now. My website's been down for the last month, and I don't see it coming back up for another month. So people will know how to find me. You Google my name, you'll find me.
To shoot you an Instagram message, huh? If you want to go? Because, I mean, even if you're not wrestling, to go camp in the Oregon wilderness for a week, on top of it, you get to wrestle with Mark Hall, and you get to hear your stories. It's like, that's life-changing, man. So I know a lot of coaches in Chicago that maybe would have some interest in that. And I'm also going to – so if a school wants to book you, just real quick, what's that process like?
So our next fall, we're actually taking a nationwide tour in the Inspirational bus, West Coast to East Coast, back to the West Coast. And it's a book signing, speaking tour. You know, and unfortunately my website's down right now. A lot of stuff has been we have an awesome website, but it's down. So people are going to have to just find me on social media through Be a Champion of Life, and contact me that way right now. And then I can share links and information about what we do and what it looks like, easy enough.
Okay, perfect. I know a couple of wrestling coaches, and Dominic Angelo at St. Patrick's. I'm thinking you, my friend, call this man. And for all the listeners, if you want if you're interested in hiring Richard, give me a text, just shoot me an email. I can put you in contact. I can be that conduit. So, wow. I mean, I can't thank you enough for your time, Richard. This has been unbelievable. We've been talking for an hour and a half here. I'm going to let you go, but I just want to say thank you. I hopefully look forward to having you back on the podcast when we can meet in person one of these years. Maybe I'll see you at the Olympic trials next year in PA.
Actually, it's on the schedule.
Good, man. My brother and I already talked. We're going. So never been to Penn State before, so I'm pumped, man. And I look forward to having you as a friend and a mentor. And I just want to thank you again, brother. Have a great night.
That's the end of this episode, but definitely not the end of the show. For more episodes, please go to wrestlingchangemylife.org. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a star rating. Show the love, baby. Show the love. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Peace.